Late one stormy night, I was patrolling the quiet, dimly lit streets of an old, forgotten town. Rain was coming down in torrents, creating an eerie atmosphere. My radio crackled to life, and a panicked voice reported a disturbance at the abandoned Hawkins Mansion. The mansion had a dark history of disappearances and unsolved mysteries. I approached the mansion cautiously, my flashlight revealing broken windows and overgrown vegetation. The wind howled, and the building seemed to creak with a life of its own. As I stepped through the front door, the temperature plummeted, sending shivers down my spine. Every step echoed through the decaying halls. I followed the sound of faint whispers to a room at the end of a narrow hallway. The door creaked open, revealing a flickering candle on a dusty table. The room felt heavy with the presence of something otherworldly. Suddenly, the candle went out, plunging me into darkness. My heart raced as a cold hand brushed against my cheek. I stumbled back, fumbling for my flashlight. Its beam revealed a translucent figure, a woman in a torn, blood-stained dress. She stared at me with hollow eyes, her mouth moving soundlessly. The chilling realization hit me. She was one of the mansion's long-lost victims. I tried to speak, but my voice caught in my throat. The apparition's wailing cries echoed through the room, and I could feel her despair in my very bones. As the minutes passed, her form faded, leaving behind an eerie silence. I fled the room, shaken to my core. A few years ago, I worked in a small town where nothing much happened. My partner and I were known for being the two-man team that kept things quiet. One night, we responded to a call about strange lights in the woods near an abandoned factory. As we ventured deeper into the woods, the distant hum of machinery grew louder. The factory had been closed for years, but the lights emanating from within were blindingly bright. My partner and I exchanged a wary glance before stepping inside. The air was thick with an acrid smell, and the machines seemed to be running on their own. We followed a dimly lit corridor that led us to a large chamber filled with rows of old, rusted machines. Suddenly, my partner gasped and pointed at a figure in the shadows. It was a man, his clothes tattered and stained. He looked at us with wild eyes and muttered about the machines needing sacrifices. Before we could react, he lunged at my partner, his hands gripping her throat. I fought to free her, but he was inexplicably strong. Then, in an instant, he vanished, leaving my partner gasping for air. I radioed for backup, but by the time they arrived, my partner was gone without a trace. No sign of struggle, no leads. The factory was searched, but all that remained were the eerie lights and the haunting memory of that disappearing man. City plagued by crime, I found myself investigating a string of brutal murders. The victims all had a connection. They were former police informants. Determined to catch the killer, I brought in a suspect who had ties to the criminal underworld. I entered the interrogation room, the dim light casting eerie shadows on the walls. The suspect was cuffed to the table, his eyes darting around nervously. As I began questioning him, the room's atmosphere grew oppressive, and the temperature seemed to drop. Mid-question, the suspect's expression twisted in terror as he stared at the corner of the room. "He's here," he whispered, his voice quivering. I turned, but saw nothing. The air grew heavy with a sense of dread, and a chilling wind swept through the room, extinguishing the overhead light. In the darkness, I heard footsteps approaching, slow and deliberate. A voice whispered my name, sending shivers down my spine. Panic gripped me as the voice grew louder, filling the room. It was the voice of one of the murdered informants. I stumbled back, fumbling for my flashlight. Its feeble beam revealed the translucent figure of the informant, his eyes hollow and accusing. "You failed us," he hissed, his voice a tortured echo. The room seemed to close in around me, and I struggled to breathe. I fled the room, my heart pounding. The suspect was found dead in his cell the next morning, an expression of sheer terror frozen on his face. No evidence, no witnesses, just the haunting memory of that nightmarish interrogation room. And that's why, my friend, even though I'm a cop, I know that some horrors are far beyond the scope of our understanding and the reach of our badges.